Hi everyone, my name is Marcus, and today we're going to delve into the abyss that is marine fish food. Just a small disclaimer, despite me personally owning a relatively large collection of marine fish foods across 6 different brands, for everything that I wanted to be included in this video, I didn't personally have everything, nor do I really have the desire to go out and buy every single fish food that's on the market. So I reached out to some of the Australian distributors to see if they would like to contribute some additional products from their ranges to round out the spread and help make this video more comprehensive. Thanks to Addicted to Fish and Oz Aquarium distributors for their support in making this video possible. I would also note the point of this video is not specifically to review each product or brand, but instead to educate on the options that are available and give you the knowledge necessary to make the right decisions for your tank and fish, as opposed to playing roulette and randomly selecting something. So you could be easily forgiven for taking a look at the fish food shelves in most local fish stores and being totally overwhelmed at the sheer quantity of products available, even in stores that maybe only stock 1 or 2 brands, let alone if they stock more than that. So the purpose of today's video is to demystify the different types of marine fish food, give you a real idea of what each one is, what it's used for, and the options that are right for your fish. I'm going to split this video into 5 categories, and we'll discuss the pros and cons of each, the size options, and what type of fish they're best for. The categories will cover a flake food, pellets, grazers, liquid or bottled foods, and finally frozen food. However, within all of those 5 categories, we can further split between herbivore and carnivore, and sometimes specialized options, and I will be sure to point those out when relevant. Okay, let's kick this off with flake food. Now, unlike many freshwater fish, it's rarer for marine fish to eat floating food from the water's surface directly. Also, we need to consider that most marine tanks have an overflow and no one wants to see the food they just put in the tank immediately get sucked down into the sump. As a result, when feeding flake food to marine tanks, do not simply drop it in the tank from above. You must instead pinch and release the food into a marine tank under the water. Feeding like this is well worth it because flake food has the best water column suspension of all food types once submerged. It is the most likely to be 100% consumed by the fish, and as a result, the most efficient food type in that the least amount of food will end up in the sandbed or rockwork. This can assist many reefers in controlling excess nitrate and phosphate buildup by only feeding exactly what the fish will eat. Another advantage is that the size considerations for flake are largely irrelevant. Once wet, it's very soft, which allows small mouths to easily eat larger flakes. Additionally, powerheads will break up the largest flakes in short order. Or, if you add it the way I suggest, pinch and rub the food together under the water to ensure that it's not floating. That will also in turn break up larger flakes. That said, there are disadvantages. You need to get your fingers wet to effectively feed flake food to the tank. As I said before, not many marine fish will eat food floating on the surface. Also, the nutrient density of flake food is the lowest of all the foods that I will go through today, which means it can be hard to gauge how much to feed, and for heavily stocked tanks, you will need to feed quite a lot of flake food. Though for some heavy-handed reefers, this might be a plus. Just to give you an indication, here is a weight comparison of 3 grams of standard flake food to 3 grams of standard pellet food. As you can see, visually, you need to feed a fair bit more flake to make up the same amount of weight of food. Primarily, there are 2 types of flake food available: algae-based and crustacean-based, the latter being generally suitable for most fish. However, do note that if you have tangs or any partially or fully herbivorous fish, aka those that graze on algae on your rockwork, you must provide an algae-based food source for them. Algae flakes are a good way to do this, though there are many others that I will cover throughout this video too. Okay, next category, and by far the biggest and most overwhelming, pellet food. The most common way to feed marine fish, the pellet food ranges of Aquaforest and Vitalis that I have here are extensive. However, we can simplify it. First, most brands will have a lineup of sizes available. Here I have samples available in extra small, small, medium, through to large, and they also go up to extra large if you have huge fish. However, here you can see samples of each food against a ruler for scale to give you an idea of the size. When dealing with pellet food and sizes, never feed a pellet that is more than half the size of the mouths of your fish. Anything larger and you risk a number of problems. It can be very bad for their digestion if they commonly eat pellets that are too big. So the rule that I stand by is look at the size of the mouth of your fish, halve it, and set that as an absolute maximum pellet size that you should feed. If you have big fish and small fish, you will need to provide multiple sizes of pellet. The fish naturally will go for the ones that are an appropriate size for them unless no other options are available. Again, pellet food comes in algae-based options as well, which are targeted at herbivorous fish, and algae-based food is essential if you have herbivores like tangs and needed as a supplement for omnivorous fish, which is by and large the largest category. If in doubt about a fish, it's probably omnivorous. In general, most herbivore fish foods should target a protein content of about 20%, while omnivorous or carnivorous foods should target 40 to 60% protein. So check the label if you're unsure as to what the target of a particular type of fish food is. Beyond the basics of size and whether it's for herbivores or carnivores, we can get into specialty pellet options. These are specially formulated for a number of reasons. The Aquaforest Anthea Pro lineup is obviously dedicated for Antheas, which can be notoriously hard to keep healthy. They also tend to lose colour quickly if their diet is lacking. Also, products like Aquaforest Omega Krill are formulated specifically for carnivorous fish. One thing that I would like to note is that Antheas Pro is a very soft pellet that sinks very quickly, and the Omega Krill is a very dry pellet that can float unless you submerge your fingers when adding it, similar to how I described how you should add flake food. Dry pellets, however, are more suitable for auto feeders than soft pellets. All the other pellet food I have here I would classify as a medium soft pellet. So not super soft, not super dry. So they're suitable for most purposes. They won't float too much, and they won't sink really quickly either. They are also all suitable for auto feeders, which is a must-have bit of equipment for most long-term reefers. It's also worth noting that for the Vitalis range in particular, they have a breakdown between platinum and non-platinum foods. And you might think that, well, the platinum is just better because of the name. That's not actually really the case. The way that their program is designed to work is that you feed the non-platinum food for 4 weeks, then feed the platinum food for 2 weeks, and you alternate that cycle. 4 weeks non-platinum, 2 weeks platinum. The reason for this is that the platinum food contains immune system support ingredients, which we don't want our fish to become reliant on, but when used in moderation, can really help boost the health and immunity of your fish. The platinum foods are also suggested if you're currently cycling your tank or if you're preparing fish for transport in the near future. Next up, we have clips, grazers, and nori. These have come a long way recently, and I really encourage you to give an appropriate grazer a try in your tank if you have yet to do so. Essentially, they are a solid ring of food that you attach to an internal plunger clip that allows fish to pick at it for quite a long time. It's a much more natural feeding behavior for many fish, and you'll be surprised how long a grazer lasts and keeps the fish entertained. In my tank, I can leave it there and the fish will pick at it at their leisure throughout the entire day. In fact, I have a grazer on my tank right now. You may have seen the fish picking at it throughout this video. The bigger fish will break off small chunks, which will then be eaten by the smaller ones. Or if you have particularly bold small fish, they'll go at the grazer as well. Grazers also come in a variety of sizes and types, with both algae-based ones and higher protein crustacean-based ones. If you've never used a grazer, don't be surprised if the fish are scared of it or ignore it for the first day or so, but don't worry, they will quickly learn and get more bold, and you'll soon find that they go at it. Generally, it will just take one bold fish to give it a go and the rest will follow in short order. I also have here the Obento brand Yakinori, which I feed on a 2 little fishies clip like this, and I simply cut a sheet of nori to an appropriate size for my fish. In my case, that's about a 6 by 6 centimeter square. If you have more fish or less fish that are going to eat the nori, obviously adjust the size of your square. If you are using sushi nori like I do, ensure that you get one that is completely unflavored. You want one where the only ingredient is nori. You don't want any additives or flavors in the product. Next up, we have liquid or bottled foods. These are probably the least common of all of the fish foods on the market, but there are still a number of them on the market. I've only got 2 examples here, both from Aquaforest. I've got their Phytomix and their Plankton Elixir, but you can essentially think of them as similar to frozen food, with the obvious advantage of not having to be defrosted. In terms of the particle size here, they're pretty well mixed, so you should be fine to feed any of these to any size of fish except for the absolute smallest of fish. All the liquid bottled fish foods like this are for omnivorous or carnivorous fish, so should not be relied on as the primary food source for herbivores like tanks. I like these because they're essentially a chunky soup, so you're very effectively feeding fish and corals alike with a single product. Just bear in mind that as compared to the dry fish foods we've been going through so far, these have a shorter shelf life and must be kept in the fridge. Finally, I have the last category of frozen food. The examples I have here cover a range of purposes, from fine fish roe, great for corals and small fish, to medium-sized mysis, which is good for most fish, to prawn and whitefish meat, which is ideal for larger fish. Or you can take the time to slice it up really thinly for any size fish. Do note that the nutrient density of the Sari aquatic range of frozen food is far, far higher than your typical mysis cube like this. I've heard it stated that it's about 4 times as much. So if you normally feed 2 cubes of mysis, that would mean that you only feed half a cube of Sari food for the same frequency. If you don't have many fish or you have smaller fish, the cubes can easily be diced up into chunks while still frozen. Many people like to supplement frozen foods on occasion, or in larger tanks feed them every day. However, I would not recommend relying on them 100%. They do not form a full nutrient profile required for most fish. Remember, frozen foods typically only contain a single ingredient. Few fish in the wild will just eat one thing. You would always use an appropriate pellet or flake food in addition to any frozen food that you may wish to feed to your tank. That can be as simple as adding an auto feeder to continually dose different types of pellets to the tank, or manually feeding flake food, or using the clips or grazers that we ran through before. As always, variety is the spice of life, and I think that goes for our fish too. So I encourage you to have a few different feed options available and mix them or alternate them. Your fish will appreciate it and certainly be more happy and healthy as a result. If there is interest, I can do future videos where I focus on a single brand and we go deeper into the exact ingredients and analysis of each of the individual products. But that's all for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Please subscribe and like the video if you want to support the channel. My name is Marcus, and you've been watching the Reef Nerd YouTube channel. Bye for now.